They laughed right in her face. Not a nervous laugh, not an awkward one. The kind of laugh that says you don't belong here. Standing in the middle of a busy city street, badge on her chest and radio crackling at her shoulder, she felt every eye judging her. Some doubted her strength. Others doubted her mind, and a few had already decided she would fail before she ever got the chance to try. She did raise her voice. She did fire back. She just stood there and chose kindness. Before we dive into this powerful story, take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter here on Kindness Diary. Officer Elena Morales had been on the force for 6 years. Not long enough to be considered a veteran, but long enough to know how the whispers sounded. She heard them in locker rooms, on late-night calls, even during roll call. She is too soft. She is too small. She won to last. Elena learned early that being a woman in uniform meant working twice as hard for half the respect, but she never joined the police to prove people wrong. She joined because she believed in protecting people, especially the ones nobody noticed. That afternoon, the call came in just before rush hour. A downtown block was locked down after a financial office reported missing funds and a possible inside job. Tensions were high. The building manager was panicking. Several officers stood around debating theories, pointing fingers, raising voices. Elena stepped forward calmly and asked for the tablet with the case details. One of the men laughed and said, "Jamás vas a poder resolver esto." You were never going to solve this. Another officer smirked. Someone else shook their head. Elena did react. She simply nodded and began reading. The suspect list was long. The evidence was messy. On the surface, it looked like a classic theft case. But Elena noticed something small, almost invisible. A timing detail. Pattern in access logs that didn't match the accusations flying around. She asked to speak with the office staff one by one. A few officers rolled their eyes. One said, "We don't have time for feelings." But Elena wasn't chasing feelings. She was practicing kindness. She spoke gently. She listened fully. She asked how people were holding up, not just where they were standing when the money went missing. One employee, a young janitor, barely spoke above a whisper. Others had already blamed him. He looked terrified. Elena sat across from him and said, "I'm not here to accuse you. I'm here to understand." For the first time that day, he looked up. He explained he'd been covering extra shifts because his mother was sick. He showed time cards. He shared something no one else bothered to ask, that he'd seen a senior accountant acting strangely after hours, always nervous, always rushing. Elena didn't interrupt. She didn't judge. She thanked him. Back outside, the laughter continued. A well-dressed man in a suit pointed at her and laughed loudly, saying, "Look at this. They sent her to handle it." Elena felt the sting, but she stayed steady. She cross-checked the janitor's story. The logs lined up. The missing funds weren't taken all at once. They were siphoned slowly, carefully by someone who knew the system. An hour later, she walked back to the group and calmly explained her findings. No drama, no ego, just facts. The room went quiet. The accountant confessed minutes later. No cheers followed, just stunned silence. The same people who laughed earlier avoided her eyes. But Elena didn't enjoy their embarrassment. She felt something else, instead relief. Relief that she'd chosen patience over pride. Listening over shouting. Later that evening, she found the janitor sitting alone on the curb. He thought he'd still lose his job. Elena told him the truth. He was cleared. Completely. He broke down crying. Not because of the investigation, but because someone had treated him with dignity. "Thank you," he said. "Nobody ever listens to me." Elena smiled softly and said they should. The next day, word spread through the precinct. Not about how she proved everyone wrong, but about how she solved the case without tearing anyone down. One officer stopped her in the hallway. The same one who laughed. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "You handled that with class." Elena nodded. That was enough. Kindness doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like silence when you want to shout, listening when others dismiss, respect when the world offers ridicule. Weeks later, Elena received a handwritten note. It was from the janitor's mother. She thanked her for seeing her son as a human being, not a suspect. Elena kept that note in her locker because medals fade, titles change, but kindness leaves fingerprints that never disappear. She still faced doubt. She still heard whispers. But now, when people laughed, it didn't shake her. She knew who she was, and more importantly, she knew the impact of choosing kindness in moments when cruelty felt easier. The truth is, the world doesn't need louder voices. It needs gentler ones with strong spines. Elena never tried to silence her critics. She simply outgrew them. So the next time someone tells you, "You'll never solve this," remember her. Remember that kindness isn't weakness, it's quiet strength. And sometimes it's the smartest tool you have. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. A single act of kindness, no matter how small, can change a life. Because when we choose compassion over judgment, we don't just solve problems, we change people. And that's how kindness wins.